This is going to be game 2 of a 2-game series between Sapphire Steel and Amber Steel. In game 1, Amber Steel went first. The link to that match is likely in the description and pinned in the comments. But now Sapphire Steel is going to be going first, and we're going to see if this version of Sapphire Steel, which is basically an adaptation from set 4 Sapphire Steel with just very minimal upgrades, is the way that we think Sapphire Steel might be played in set 5. I personally, after experiencing the previous match, don't think that this version of Sapphire Steel is the way to go. Again, it could just be built incorrectly, but we need more testing. I do think that there are some better cards that you could be using in Sapphire Steel, which we may go over in the future, in order to help you against some of your tougher matchups. Now, again, you might be saying, Quantum, what are you talking about? Amber Steel Song versus Sapphire Steel or Sapphire Ruby. It's a bad matchup for Amber Steel Song. And yes, that is true to a certain extent, but if you watch the Disney Lorcana Challenge in Bologna, an Amber Steel Song player did indeed beat a Ruby Sapphire deck, which is its worst matchup. And that's because the Amber Steel Song decks are going more aggro now, right? So they have a game plan against these slower control decks, which is what Sapphire decks usually are. And so as a Sapphire player, you have to have the anti-aggro tech, because once you get to the mid and late game portions, you should have enough control over the game state, enough ink to play multiple interactions, card draw, etc., that you can close out a game and stop whatever your opponent is doing. So being on the draw versus being on the play in this particular matchup makes a huge difference. I don't want to spoil game 1 if you haven't seen it, but make sure you check that out and you can see what kind of happened there. But in this matchup, you can see that we're off to a decent start. Popsicle into Baboom. A Baboom on a Robin Hood may seem terrible, but just to make sure you're ink efficient, because it's better than doing nothing. There's nothing I'd really want to keep the Baboom for, since I have a Grab Your Swords. I have Tinkerbells in the deck, which I just drew into there, I believe. And there's just other things that I can do, because we know, like I just mentioned earlier, Amber Steel Song aims to go on an aggro-focused strategy here. They're looking to sing whole new worlds, refill their hand, and then just dump more characters on board. So we need to slow that down as much as possible. And dealing with the Robin Hood here in this particular instance, because they inked a Robin Hood, a big Robin Hood, Champion of Sherwood, kind of telegraphs that they have another one in hand, and so I want to prevent that shift as well, right? Again, I know I'm playing both characters here, or both players, because my testing partner is unavailable this weekend. I explained that in the first game, but trying to play as if you don't know what's in the opponent's hand here is what our goal is. So we draw, I don't even know, like our third uninkable in a row there or something, or second uninkable in a row, which is not great. I don't want to ink this Criminal Mind just yet, and I'm too far away from this Robin Hood for it to really matter. I definitely need to play this Aerial and hopefully grab something meaningful. I only hit 3 by accident, so I have to put them back to the top and draw 4, or reveal 4, or whatever. Look at 4 and reveal 1, that's a song, whatever the effect is. And I'm really thinking here if I should take the Zeus or the Whole New World. In hindsight, I think I shouldn't have taken this long with this decision. I'm pretty sure you have to take the Whole New World here, just because my hand is very weak, especially into the board that they're likely going to develop over the next few turns. Now that they have the ramp with Fishbone, again, yeah, it's kind of awkward, because you wheel. It's like they're fishboning, and then you wheel them into advantage. So now, as the Sapphire Steel player, my thought process is I'm not going to go for the Hiram here, because they might try to wheel me very next turn. So I'd be better off just trying to develop more of my board. So I'm going to go ahead and ink the Fishbone Quill, and then ink with the Fishbone Quill the Grab Your Swords and drop a Cogsworth, right? And so now I'm able to better mitigate the damaging effects of a Whole New World. If my opponent wants to use up some tempo on their side in order to sing the Whole New World, I'm totally fine with that. Now again, we know as the Amber Steel Song player seeing the hand here that we're not in a great spot. We have to Whole New World, because these Grab Your Swords are just absolutely dead right now. Not necessarily dead in the matchup, but not the greatest. So we're going to ink, and we play Grab Your Swords with the Naveen ability, and then we sing Grab Your Swords with Ursula to put a total of 4 damage on this Cogsworth. Just to get some utility out of our cards here, we got a Strength left, which I cannot use on the Cogsworth because it has Ward, if you're wondering why I couldn't finish it off. And then we just pass back. We know the opponent, right, and the Sapphire Steel player's on 1 card, so we don't necessarily want a Whole New World just yet. We want to use up as much as we can before we do that. But now, because they were delayed, I'm going to be able to use the Hiram. Well, obviously, I drew another one for turn. Not the greatest to draw another one, but, it is what it is. Because I know they have a Whole New World off the Aerial, I'm actually going to ink mine with Fishbone Quill, and then Zeus away the Naveen as it's the biggest threat here, right? Leaving the aerial for singing the whole new world, I'm totally fine with that, right? We're slowing down any kind of aggro pressure from the opponent because that Naveen does quest for 2 as well, and it's the better singer, so it's, you know, no brainer to take out the Naveen there. So here again, I'm trying my best to just maybe play slow or play correctly. There's no real point in singing Strength of the Raging Fire here and put 3 damage on Hiram and hope to draw into like a Zeus to finish off the Hiram on the board. So yeah, take back those actions. I'm going to use the Ursula to actually just crash into the Cogsworth since it had 4 damage on it prior with the Grab Your Swords. And you could have argued on the Sapphire Steel player side I should have used Popsicle to heal instead of using it as a Hiram draw, but I think it's fine. I was okay with losing that Cogsworth given the position that I see my opponent in here. So we end up inking the Strength, which is the correct play, and then we're going to use 3 ink in order to play aerial, hopefully finding another whole new world, and we do not. We actually miss completely, which is not great. And then we just pass turn. So again, got to discard the hand and draw the 7 for the whole new world on the Sapphire Steel player side, and we draw into some pretty good cards here. And this is where Amber Steel Song can really fall apart when they don't have control of the tempo, and you're able to really take advantage of them casting the whole new world. It's super beneficial in my opinion. So we're going to play Popsicle first, and then quest for 1 with the Hiram, finally getting on the board, draw 2, and our hand is stacked now. I think this is the line of play regardless. Like, we see them push out a lot of characters. It's likely that as the Sapphire Steel player, I have to worry about them doing another whole new world, especially since with what we experienced in game 1. But the fact that they played aerial and missed on the scry is a good tell that if they had a whole new world, they may not want to develop that aerial just yet, because they don't want to end up scrying into another whole new world if they have one in hand already. So that's why I'm kind of just like, as a Sapphire Steel player, maybe I can opt to develop more draw, and if they have the whole new world, that's fine. I just need to get as much ink as possible so that you know, assuming I don't deck out, but I'll be able to play multiple interactions once I you know, keep getting whole new world in and seeing what my hand is. So I'm really really thinking what the options are. I've got 6 ink left. I have not inked yet for turn or for the Fishbone Quill, because all I did was play Popsicle and quest to banish Popsicle. I end up playing Chicha, using Fishbone to ink a whole new world, and I ink Cusco for turn. That's my 2nd ink in the turn, so Chicha triggers, I draw a card, and we still have 6 ink available, so Chicha was essentially played for free compared to where we started, since we inked for turn and inked off of Fishbone. And now I think the decision is, okay, play a Ford Sphere, and then do I want to develop the Donald or the Cogsworth? That is the question, right? But I'm definitely going to do one of these two. The Donald could represent card draw next turn off the Chicha, which again, you could argue you don't necessarily need this because I have 3 different card draw engines. I literally inked the whole new world. I have Hiram and I have Chicha. So this is the conclusion that I think I came to, and somebody I think accurately pointed that out on my game 1 video, where they were like, you know, Chicha just seems like a little bit of a trap for Sapphire Steel. Like, you probably don't need to run her, especially with a whole new world. And I, after playing this 1 match, agree. Again, more testing is needed, but you can just see how powerful it is. Anyways, we opt to go with the Donald because it's the slightly bigger body, which can trade into the aerials if they have songs. Yes, they could sing Zeus's, and they have them in hand here. We have them in hand. But we're aiming to develop the ramp, again, in case of a whole new world coming down again. But the opponent's hand in the Amber Steel Song player is still very healthy. So if they do dump a bunch of characters on board and then whole new world, that definitely is something that could swing tempo. So you could argue that the Sapphire Steel player is a little lucky right now. I mean, the lore... where the lore is at means that the Amber Steel Song player isn't like threatening to progressively like go too far ahead in a lore count, and all I really do need is Tamatoa Dime, but I do have 2 Tamatoas in hand, so wheeling me here would be really bad to lose those Tamatoas, right? So I, as the Amber Steel Song player, just play out my whole hand, which you could argue is a mistake because maybe you want to give the illusion that you have a whole new world, but I think the Sapphire Steel player, if I'm the Amber Steel Song player, I'm worried about the Sapphire Steel player just dumping their hand on board as well, because they just ramped up like super aggressively last turn. You know, 3 inks in a turn, they still got a pretty healthy hand. And just checking the Donald stats there as the Amber Steel Song player, because I might want to Zeus it, which again just feels bad. right? Maybe that is a misplay because this Donald gave them ramp and then I had to waste a Zeus on it. Like if I had a whole new world, it wouldn't matter. Like that would have been fine. But I just go super wide on the board and put them on. You need to have a grab your swords. We draw yet another whole new world. We're going to immediately fishbone that because we just have better card draw engines. And also we outed the Hiram last turn as well. So inking the whole new world off of fishbone. Paying 3. No? Okay. Oh, we're just organizing our ink. Sorry, we ink Fishbone for turn, which allows us to draw a card off Chicha. Then we draw into the Fortisphere, so we pay 1, play Fortisphere, draw a card. I got a lot of ink, but I do have a lot of this board that I have to deal with here. This me took 1 damage, by the way, at the end of the turn. That's what I'm doing there. And I think my next play here is hard casting this Grab Your Swords. So putting 2 damage on everything, and also taking out this me and the Ursula. So I just take out the readied Ursula because the new Ursula will have 2 damage on it, so I just move them around. And then, you know, the aerials are still on there with the damage. I can Chicha, take out another aerial. So, you know, they'll lose 1 aerial and then just put 2 damage counters on aerial and the queen still on board. I have 6 ink to work with, and I did already ink twice in this turn, right? So what are my options here? No Tinkerbell. Is the play dropping a Hiram, which is slow, but again, my opponent isn't on a lot of lore, so I think I can afford to be a little bit slow. Okay, and because we know they're in top deck mode, like, we don't have to necessarily fear the whole new world unless they top deck it, or an aerial, I guess, but they've already gone through, I think, 2 aerials already. So here you're seeing me look at the discard, so yeah, whole new world is what I definitely need to draw, or an aerial into a whole new world. We draw Daisy Duck, which isn't great. And this is kind of what can happen against Steel Song. I mean, you know, if you're a Steel Song player and a good one at that, let me know if there's anything you would have done differently, or if the Sapphire player just got too far ahead being on the play, that there wasn't much that the Amber Steel Song player could do. Off of the Daisy quest, we reveal a Cusco character, so that goes to hand. And now we just continue to quest with everything. If we can slow the opponent down, you know, as the Amber Steel Song player, if we can slow the Sapphire Steel player down and force them to challenge, I guess that's okay. Like, not ideally what you want to do, but we're going to leave the queen readied up because we don't want Smee trading into it. We want them to exert some of their characters so we can start getting some advantage off of this queen. We draw for turn, and it's a Fortisphere. That's very strong because obviously we're going to play that and draw a card. And the card we draw is Pete, which is insanely strong. So we're going to quest with here and banish the Fortisphere, draw another 2. And at this point, I think the play is to develop the Pete because this isolates me from, or insulates me, whatever you want to say, from them top decking a whole new world, or any song for that matter, right? Because they can't play anything. So for the 4 ink that I've spent so far, Fortisphere and Pete, we're looking okay. We haven't inked for turn or off Fishbone yet, so we still have 8 ink available. We are going to use Fishbone though, and I think I'm really deciding. So I'm Fishboning the Tamatoa, so to not reveal it to the opponent, and then I'm showing the opponent the Donald to ink for turn. So 10 ink available. We don't necessarily have 10 inks worth of actions, so you could argue that, like, you know, did we take that a little too far? Probably. So I think I take back my play, and I'm going to actually play out another Chicha for 2. So I've spent 3 on the Pete, 2 on the Chicha, and 1 on the Fortisphere, so that's a total of 6 ink used this turn. So Chicha comes down, and then I'm going to ink and ink off Fishbone, the Tamatoa, and the Pete to trigger the Chicha to draw, right? So there you can see Fishbone, and then ink Donald for turn. The second ink, draw a card. We draw into our 4th Tamatoa. So getting wheeled here would basically mean we lose the game. But we are going to be able, at least, to drop one of these Tamatoas on board since we are back on 8 ink here. And at this point, you know, next turn between Diamond questing with Hiram, it will be pretty much GG. So on play of Hiram, we're going to recur a Saw, and we're going to quest with Smee, or no, take out the Daisy Duck, okay? So we'll take 1 damage, and then we'll take 1 at the end of the turn as well. And there's nothing else that can do anything since we played every other character that's not exerted this turn. So the top deck Robin Hood comes down, which we're happy to see as the Sapphire Steel player. They're going to quest with Queen, boost up the aerial to a 6 6-4, or sorry, 6-3 body, and then reduce Hiram to 0. So the 6-3 aerial will end up taking out the Hiram, right, with its 6 strength boosted from the queen. Then we use Ursula, I believe, there in order to challenge the Smee and take that out. We quest with the Daisy, reveal a character that goes to hand. I didn't even see what it was. And then I'm thinking, like, do I quest with this aerial or not? Do I keep it? I think I keep it since my queen is already exerted in case I do top deck a whole new world. Hopefully another Pete doesn't come down. Okay, we're going to draw for turn and we get a Smee. We're going to immediately play a Popsicle to draw a card. And, you know, at this point, they've gone through, what, 2 whole new worlds? Decking out is definitely a little bit of a concern. We're going to go ahead and ink off Fishbone to trigger our Chicha on board and draw a card. We draw into another Tinkerbell there, which is pretty decent. The opponent's board state isn't too threatening right now. Most of their 2 questers, or all of their 2 questers, are exerted, which is good. But we can afford to play a slower game. So now the turn after the Tamatoa comes down, we're going to develop the Lucky Dime for 7, and I make another misplay a little bit later, but I catch it. I'll point out to you guys. The Pete that was played last turn, right, does not have Summoning Sickness, so we're going to be able to use him to challenge the Queen, and then quest with Tamatoa for 5. Get back a Popsicle, play a Popsicle for 1. And I didn't realize it I'll draw a card, of course. And then I didn't realize it at the time, but I think I missed paying the ink for the Lucky Dime, unfortunately. So I go 6 for Tinkerbell to deal 1 damage to everything. And at this point, the game is over. Like, there's not really anything the opponent's going to do. Like, you know, top deck whole new world. They can't deal with what I have on board with the Tinkerbell and the Tamatoa, I don't think, with anything that they can draw into. So here, before I end up drawing for the Amber Steel Song player's turn, I'm going to actually recall my actions because I think this line of play was better. So I just try to reset the game state. And what you're going to see is me try to use the Lucky Dime to close the gap on the lore count. So yeah, just sit through this organizational part. It doesn't take too long. But I'm counting up the ink here, and this is a good learning lesson for you guys who go to events, locals, Source Chat Championships, DLCs, etc. Be very, very much aware of where your cards are and what cards are left if you can, because it really does play a significant difference and could be the difference maker between you winning and losing a match. Anyways, now we're going to end up resetting our play using the Lucky Dime for 2, which leaves us with 5 ink available. So not enough to cast the Tinkerbell, so that means their characters come back and don't have any damage. But it does give us enough to cast the Cogsworth that we have in hand, which might be the play here. Nope, we're going to boom the aerial because I'm telling them if you top deck a whole new world, I want you to hard cast it. I do not want you to be singing it. So now we just have 3 ink left, and I think we're okay to just drop the Smee for 2, leaving us with 1 ink available. So in my opinion, a pretty efficient turn. You know, using up almost all of our ink, playing multiple interactions. The opponent here top decks the Queen, or, you know, I top deck the Queen when I switch back over to the Amber Steel Song. Just throw it on board, indicating that, yeah, that's game. I can't stop them. So that is a GG. Again, if you enjoy these kinds of videos where I play against myself to see both the hands and stuff, let me know in the comment section below and drop a like on this video. Thank you again for watching, though. Quantum is out.